Hi, I'm Tamara. Welcome to Many Roads Traveled, where I bring my travel adventures to you, I guess. So don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a step along the way. Welcome to episode 17. Today's episode, we are going to be leaving Khartoum finally after 9 days and heading out to Kasala, Sudan, and then going into Eritrea, our country number 10 on this trip from Paris to Cape Town. My 30,000-mile road trip. And my review for the week is from Chris Justice. Thank you so much. It says, I just finished listening to all episodes, so I'm up to date. So much enjoying it. The time in Sudan seems very tough, but you did it. I am sure you carry that experience with you for the rest of your life and makes you stronger. I can't wait to hear what's next. Keep it up. You are a great storyteller. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much, especially those days when I'm sick or hungover. So I appreciate it. And if you'd like to leave a review, head over to my website, manyroadstravel.com, and you can leave a comment on my website or in Apple or Stitcher or on my Facebook page, Many Roads Traveled. That's 2 L's for my American friends in Traveled. Okay, so let's pick up where we left off, which was just leaving Khartoum. And like I said, if you're just joining, you might want to go back to episode 1 and join me on the whole shebang. Okay, so it's day 106 so far on this trip. And we got the bus early in the morning. And we is my friend Casey, who I left with. We're still together, traveling together. And we also had met an American couple, Matt and Aaron. So the 4 of us, we got a bus to Kasala, Sudan, which took about 8 hours. So we got into Kasala about 3:15 p.m. and then we just jumped in a minivan to the city center. And Aaron and I, we let the boys do the work for a change. So we stayed with the bags and the boys went hotel hunting. Casey found us, our usual cheap and cheerful, which really means cheap and cheap. And it was like under $2. At the time, Sudanese pound, it was about 180 to 200 Sudanese pounds to $1 US. Now in 2020, it's about 55. The Americans had more money. They were on a shorter trip, so they splashed out, and theirs was $5 a night. So we just kind of went for dinner with them and had an early night because it was a long day traveling. I really liked Erin. She was really, really sweet. It was nice to hang out with another girl as well. So day 107, we got up at 6 in the morning to get our bus trying to get bus tickets to go to Asmara, the capital of Eritrea. So we finally found the little bus station. And of course, they weren't leaving until Saturday. So today was Thursday, so in 2 days' time. But that wasn't too bad. And while we were there, we met this really cute English guy called Alan, and he was just traveling, and he was about to do his PhD in Princeton. So he was really nice and great to chat to. So we hung out with him for the rest of the day, and we went for some dinner. We got some really good fool. Now, if you've heard my other episodes of Sudan, fool was very hit and miss, and that's their local staple diet. I get like main meal, which is kind of like a bean stew, but they put peanut oil in there, so sometimes it's really greasy and not great. But this was really good. Not much peanut oil, and like chopped tomatoes and onions on there, and some herbs. So it was tasty. So that was a nice change to get some good food, because it was few and far between in Sudan, unfortunately. Oh yeah, so we had to change some money because we were there for 2 more days. So we went to change $20, which took 2 hours. The normal. Nothing happens fast in Africa in most cases. Yeah, so that was about it for the day, really. Day 108. Well, I was just like, okay, I got up early again because we just seemed to be getting up early all the time, and I was really bored. So I was like, right, I'm going off on an adventure by myself, which I like doing and did quite often in Egypt and had great times. So even though it was still very hot in the 40s Celsius, easily, Sudan, you're in the desert, so it's to be expected. So I just wandered off. There was these kind of, I guess, foothills in the background of Kasala, and they were really cool looking actually, because through the years they've been sandblasted, so they're rounded. So I thought, well, I love climbing my mountains and hills, so I'll head in that direction, because there really wasn't much else to do in Kasala, to be honest. So I've been walking maybe 15 minutes, and a lady and her daughter stopped me and invited me into their home, and she had a couple more daughters. So yeah, so they ended up giving me some fresh lime juice and then made me breakfast. So that was nice, because it was about 8 in the morning. So yeah, I spent about 2 hours with them. Couldn't really talk. They had a little bit of English, and with my little bit of Arabic, you know, we just kind of hung out, but they were so sweet, really nice. So left there, and within about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, these kids just came out from nowhere, right? And I had about, I don't know, at least 10 kids hanging out with me. I was like, okay, I feel a bit like the Pied Piper. Yeah, so I took some, you know, I asked them, which is important to ask people to take their picture first. So, you know, I kind of, they couldn't speak English, but I mimed it out. And of course, this is before digital cameras, because it's back in 1993. So I had a old Canon camera film, which many of you younger people don't even know what that is, probably. Yeah, but so I couldn't show them their pictures, which kind of sucks nowadays, well, as you can with digital phones and stuff. But yeah, I had a laugh with them, and then I was like, okay, well, off I go again. So of course, after about another 10, 15 minutes, a man came out, and he invited me into his home, and he was a teacher, so he had very good English, and I got offered another lime juice. I talked to him for a bit, and I met he had like 10 kids or something, so met all his kids. And then when I left, those kids joined the kids that were outside waiting for me, so now I have about 20 kids. It was crazy, but like super fun. So I'm still heading, you know, towards these foothills with my entourage. And so got to just about near the foothills, and there were some trees there. So I stopped to get some shade, because like I said, it's really hot. Well, the next thing you know, these teenager kids joined, and they brought a chair for me. So I'm sitting on this chair with about 25, 30 kids of various ages. And now a quick sponsor break. Listen, I've got a sweet deal for you. You can try out for 30 days this all-in-one marketing platform that has literally everything you need for an online business. Websites, membership sites, e-commerce, the list goes on and on and on. There's 40 unlimited tools that you can use for 30 days. Plus, I'm throwing in $600 worth of my bonuses. So head on over to manyroadstravel.com/travel. Okay, back to the show. No one can speak English. So it was just like, we're just hanging out, trying to make them laugh. Just the sweetest kids, man. And super cute. I wanted to take a few home with me. Although that's totally wrong. I'm not into kidnapping. Oh, and they also filled my water bottle up for me as well, which was very nice. So then another guy came up, and he invited me into his house. So I didn't even get to climb the mount. Well, they were pretty hard to climb anyways, but at least I got to the foothill. So went back to his house, and he introduced me to his sister, who was one of the only 2 doctors in Kasala. And at the time, she only made $300 a year as a doctor. Crazy, eh? So then he invited me to stay for dinner, or like a early dinner, late lunch, which I did. And it was I don't eat red meat. I haven't eaten red meat since I was 19. I was 23 at the time. So what they brought me was kind of a stew thing, and it had meat in it, but I didn't really know what kind of meat or ask. Because I do eat chicken and fish. So I was hoping for chicken. And just put, you know, you have to, when you get invited to people's home, you can't just go no, especially, well, he could speak English, but other families, when we couldn't communicate, it's, you know, really not, it's just super rude to, when they go out of the trouble to invite you into their homes and then make you meals to not eat at least some of it. So I ate it. And, you know, there was also some rice and bread. So, you know, it was very nice. It was so interesting talking to him as well, just getting, you know, what it was like living in Sudan. And because at the time, the South Sudan, North Sudan were still in war. And I mean, that civil war went on forever. Now South Sudan is its own country, but it took decades basically. And back in 93, it was still full on. So you couldn't go more south than Khartoum at the time. So Kasala was east of that, of Khartoum. Anyway, so I was there for a couple hours. And then he's like, oh, well, do you want to come watch a football match? Which is like soccer. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So yeah, we went there and he bought my ticket and we went. And it was crazy. Like I was the only female and Westerner there out of about 10,000 people. But it was an amazing experience. Unfortunately, they lost 3-1. But yeah, it was really fun. It was really, really cool and no hassle. Like, you know, I got looked at obviously quite a bit, but that was to be expected. I stuck out like a sore thumb. But it was amazing. Just very warm, inviting people and good fun. Even though they lost, it was great cheering for them. And then he walked me back to my hotel and like just the complete gentleman. And it was definitely by far my favorite day in Sudan. And that seemed to be the case whenever I did my own adventures. And that's why I like traveling. You know, the rest of my trips, I've traveled solo, and I love it because you do tend to meet people, especially local people, easier and more often. And then if you don't, you just don't. Like, you know, you just do your own thing, right? But yeah, I had an amazing, amazing day. By far my favorite day, and Kasala was my favorite place in Sudan as well. So anyways, we get back to the hotel, and Aaron's there going, okay, you got to pack up now because we just found out the bus isn't leaving till Tuesday now. And today was Friday. We thought it was leaving the Saturday. So I'm like, what? She's like, so we've got this, I don't know, this box that we can get, this form of transport, which I'm assuming was like in the back of a pickup truck, you know, box. But it's leaving at 7. So pack. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay, so pack up. And we head out to where the box station is. I don't know. Oh no, it's not leaving till 7 a.m. the next day, not 7 p.m. So panic unnecessary. So then we decided, cool, because the day before we had moved to Alan's hotel, the English guy, because it was half the price. So it was literally less than $1 a night. It was more dingier, obviously, but it was like $1 a night. All right, awesome. But we decided to go back to the first hotel, Hotel Taltil, and splash out and get some AC because I hadn't slept properly for the last couple nights. So we did that. So I actually had a good night's sleep. But of course, we're up at 6 a.m. again. These early mornings were becoming a ritual that I wasn't loving. But you got to do what you got to do. So day 109, we head off to the box station again. Get there and find out they're not leaving till later that day for some reason. So we were like, okay, but then someone else said, oh, well, this half-ton truck is leaving now, like very shortly, if you want to get that. And it's going to Tessenay, which is just on the other side of the border in Eritrea. So you can get on that instead. So we're like, okay, fine. So yeah, the 4 of us piled into the back of this huge, half-ton truck. And we left. So we're like, okay, that's great. Well, of course, we kept stopping and picking up more people. It was like, oh my God. But it was only about 2 to 3 hours. So that was okay. So we get to the border. We were fine. If you remember the last episode, we had our 5-step plan, right? To leave Sudan, get into Eritrea, into Ethiopia. So this border was okay. So we get there and it's like a little tiny hut on this dirt road with a rope across it. That was the border. So we got no problems, got into Eritrea, our country number 10 on this trip. Yay, step 4 completed. No, step 5 was the tricky one because that was the going into Ethiopia because after loads of craziness, we finally got our Ethiopian visa, but it had stamped at the top air only. Because at the time you couldn't go into Ethiopia by land, but you could travel all by land and you could leave by land, but you just couldn't enter by land, which is just ridiculous red tape nonsense. But that's what it is, was. And of course, this trip, one of the big goals was to get from Paris to Cape Town by land. But we didn't have to worry about that for a while. We were just happy to be into Eritrea. And we were finally, left Sudan after, I think, 23 days we were there. A lot of that was just waiting around in Wadi Halfa in Khartoum. But yeah, it was Sudan. I mean, even though it was hard, there wasn't a lot of food. There wasn't a lot to do. I always found good things about it. Like coming through the desert is an amazing experience because the desert I find is just so beautiful. And the people, but the people by far were the best thing about Sudan, for sure. Through all the ups and downs, the people got me through, kind of thing. Oh, and it was hilarious because Casey looked like he was filthy, and he has really curly hair. But when you're in the back of a truck with dust kicking up, he almost had an afro, but he looked like, I don't know if you can think back way back, but he looked like the Encino Man, which is like this Neanderthal man. It was hilarious. So yeah, we get to Tessenay, and it's a really small town. And we just found, I don't know if there's even more than one, but the hotel called the Eritrean Hotel, which was run by 4 lovely ladies. And also it was quite nice to be out of Muslim countries. Not like I've never been treated better on all of my traveling than in Muslim countries. I'm not saying that, but it was just nice not to have to worry so much about what to wear, and to be able to get a cold beer was really, really awesome, because we've been in Muslim countries for a few months now. I mean, it was Sudan, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, and Turkey. So except for our couple days in Cyprus, and of course the 4 ladies were like, "Oh, do you want a cold beer?" We're like, "Yes, we do." And they're nice big bottles called Asmara beer, and we ended up having with the Americans, they're still with us. I think we had around 3 beers. We had lunch there. We had and more food too. So we had bread and salad for lunch, and then for dinner we had spaghetti, which was delicious, and our bed. So the 2 meals, 3 beers, and our bed for the night was $2.50. I was like, I'm gonna love this place, man. And at the time it was 7.5 bira to $1. Well, now it's not even called bira, it's called nafka, and it's 15 nafka to $1. And it seems Eritrea has gotten a lot more expensive from when I was there. So yeah, we just chilled at the hotel with the ladies, and they were teaching us some Tigrinya, which is their local language. So that's the thing, when you're moving so much, my Arabic was coming along quite nicely, because I've been in Muslim countries for quite a while. So now it's like, oh, I got to learn a whole new language now. I mean, even if you just learn a few words, that's great. The locals, wherever you are, they really appreciate the effort you put in there. So yes, we just kind of chilled out. And then day 110, we're up at 5:30 a.m. Early mornings, I told you. And for some reason, Casey got to the bus station before the 3 of us. And he managed to save us 4 seats on the worst bus I've ever seen in my entire life. It was more like a metal box with a roof and seats in it. I used those seats, that term, loosely. And I'm sure I had the worst seat on the bus, and I didn't notice until after I'd sat down that my seat had this huge grease stain on it. And unfortunately for Casey, I was wearing his shorts at the time, so kind of ruined those. But also we were in a 3, so there was 2-seaters and 3-seaters seats on this bus, and I was on a 3-seater in the aisle, but only half my ass could be on the seat because the other 2 people taking up all this room. And also I couldn't lean back. The back of my seat had this huge metal spike or something coming through it. So I couldn't even lean back. I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. 7 hours later, I'm about to lose my mind. Because also with my illness, my knees are killing because there wasn't much leg space as well. I've been half my ass has been on this bus, on dirt roads, so bumpy roads, and if I lean back, I'm going to get stabbed in the back. So this totally sucks. But luckily, just before I lost it, the guy that was one of the guys sitting next to me, he got up and got off. So I was able to move and get to the window seat and lean back, which was total luxury. I'm like, oh my God, this is so much better. My back feels like it's been almost broken. 3 hours later, we finally get to, 10 hours, and in Africa, when the sun sets, it's literally just, it's like someone turns the light off. It's just black. Of course, there's no, these are kind of dirt roads. There's no street lights or anything like that. So when you're driving, the bus driver just stops when it gets dark because you can't really see very well. But anyways, we got into this little town called Albergot. And like I said, 10 hours, we're only halfway. We've only gone about 200 kilometers. It was like, oh my God. So the driver stops in this little tiny town, tells everyone to get out, and locks the bus door. So everyone just starts like getting their blankets out and just sleeps on the road. Like, okay. So that's what we did. Sleep on the road next to the bus in the middle of this little town. It was just crazy. And of course, no food. I think, Matt had bought a watermelon at one of our little stops. So that's all we had all day was watermelon. So of course, didn't really sleep too great. And day 111 was a very early start because about 4 a.m, I started hearing people like scrambling to get back on the bus. And luckily, Aaron and I, honestly, it was like a rugby scrum. And the day before, we had left a few of our things on two-seaters, in hopes that we could save those for the morning. Anyway, so Aaron and I were like fighting, like elbows, get onto this bus, get to these 2 seats, and like going, okay, guys, like these are ours. And we managed to claim them. Then Matt and Casey, they had to do the same thing, like going, trying to say, not many people spoke English, so they're trying to point, going, that's, who we're sitting with. And yeah, we left at 5:30 a.m, got to Karen, which is a bigger town, at about 11:30 in the morning. And we bought another watermelon because that was about it. Because you don't have a lot of time to, there's not a lot of stops to get food. But then when we got to Karen, we were given the royal treatment. And we were actually offered which seats we would like on the best bus I had, I'm sure that was in Eritrea. It was almost like a Greyhound bus. So that was just super sweet luxury. And we got to pick, the seats we wanted. So that was really nice. So we left Karen at about 1 p.m. And yeah, this was smooth sailing. And we got into Asmara at about 6 p.m. So of course, only 4 hours on the luxury bus. And also Asmara is at 9,000 feet above sea level. So we're thinking, okay, I already noticed it was cooler, and especially at night, it got a lot cooler. And we made it to Asmara. Super excited about that. However, to hear more about Eritrea, you'll have to tune in until next Thursday to find out the shenanigans and excitement and all the stuff that we got that happened to us in Eritrea. And I will give you a hint. We were there on Independence Day, the newest country in the world. Very cool. So don't miss next week's episode. And okay, so now it is time for Tam's top tips. So tip number 1 would be for Sudan. I'll talk much more about Eritrea next week. So Sudan would be, get out there and explore and just meet people. Like, they're so nice. They're, some of the nicest people that you will meet. And it's very, I felt very safe. Like I said, I don't know how many homes I was invited to. And like you said, in Wadi Halfa, like everywhere I went, I was offered chewing tobacco. So just very, very sweet people. So thank you to all the Sudanese people. Tip number 2 would be always ask more than one person about when and where buses leave from. Because sometimes people will make stuff up rather than saying they don't know, especially in India. Oh my God, India is renowned for that. So yeah, you might have to just check with a few people. Now obviously you can go on, even like Sudan, you're not going to find a lot online, but just double check, ask local people. And tip number 3 would be, if you don't have much patience, you better get some. That kind of goes across the board with traveling, especially how I travel, by public transport. Less developed countries, you have to have patience. Otherwise, you're going to lose your mind. And a couple more little tips for Sudan, especially if you're going to be there for a short period of time. You do not have to be in Sudan. I think we're there for 23 days in total. No, I would say a week would be plenty 2 max. But you might want to bring like, snacks, like sealed bags of just snacks. There just wasn't a lot of food there. I mean, I feel very bad for the people who live there because obviously that's their daily thing. So as a traveler, always keep that in mind too, is perspective. And yeah, and then for solo female travelers, again, you don't have to wear a headscarf, and men as well. This goes for women and men, long sleeve, it's very hot. So light cotton, long sleeve shirts and trousers, as I've said. And even now they say Sudan is one of the safest places in Africa to travel as a woman. So you shouldn't have any problems. Like I said, the generosity and hospitality of the people were amazing. Okay, so I think that's about a wrap. So make sure you subscribe. Yeah, and again, on the website, there'll be much more info on there about this whole trip. Okay, so until next Thursday, safe travels, one road at a time.